Okay, I am live. Welcome to our talk. Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Deidre Moss, and I'm the host of Can We Talk? I'm an educator, motivator, and a talk connoisseur. So I don't usually come on Sundays. I don't usually come on days like today, but I decided to spend some time today to talk about this topic. And so the platform is on a break. We're on a break. But I decided to dedicate some time to focus on a topic that I've been thinking a lot about lately. And today I'm flying solo, but I will be talking about recognition and acknowledgement. So from time to time, I will be going back and forth to the comments. Um, but before we begin, if you're tuning in from our social media page and you just joined us, like and share this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel using the links on our page. We need your support to continue these talks. Also, if there's something that you think we should be talking about, feel free to let us know. We do want to hear from you. Let us know if you would like to advertise on our platform or sponsor our program. We do want to hear from you. Our numbers are there, our links are there, our email is there. So feel free to reach out to us. So with that, we'll get into our talk. Can we talk recognition and acknowledgement? And so normally I will pass the virtual mic to my guests to introduce themselves, but seeing that I am here by myself again, I will mention, and if you're not familiar with this platform, I'm an educator. I've been in education for a number of years. I'm an educator in higher education. I'm a higher education professional. I'm also a communicator. I have a background in journalism and mass communications. So I didn't just throw myself here. I am degreed up. Okay, so I have a background in journalism and mass communication. And I'm also a motivator as well. Okay. So with that, we're going to get into our talk today. And so the topic again, to reiterate, is recognition and acknowledgement. And before I get into this topic, I want to ask, or I just want to reiterate and define recognition. So I went to the Oxford Dictionary. I went to the GoTo Dictionary, Oxford Dictionary, and it defines recognition as the acknowledgement of the existence, validity, or legality of something. So when you recognize something, you're acknowledging its existence. You acknowledge that it exists. You make it valid. You add validity to it. And then you also add, there is the legality component of it. So you add that legal component to that when you recognize something. When you recognize an estate, when you recognize a marriage, there is the legality aspect of it, that you have legal claims to whatever asset. Okay, so recognition brings acknowledgement of the existence of something. It brings the validity of something. You can't question whether or not it's valid because you've already recognized it. And it brings into the legality of something. So I'm going to take a short break and I'm going to check to see if there's any comments. And you're welcome to join me in this talk today. I do like to hear from you. Okay, there's no comment yet, but I am definitely going to continue what we're talking about. And we're talking about recognition today. And so my first point is really to inquire, are you waiting on recognition? Are you waiting to be recognized? Are you waiting to be validated? And remember, this comes from the definition for recognition. Are you waiting to be acknowledged? And so we recognize and understand that some people, they come from families where, or they come from situations where they've never really been recognized or they've never really been acknowledged. And of course, that is unfortunate. You have children in situations, you have people, even adults now, who are dealing with the fact that they were never really recognized and they were never really acknowledged. And so you have persons who have that background and dealing with that trauma. But do you spend your life seeking that? If you've never been validated, you've never been recognized, you've never been acknowledged, you were born into a situation, or you came into a situation where you were not recognized as a child, or you were not recognized in a certain context. Do you spend your life seeking that type of recognition or acknowledgement of your existence? But even though that's unfortunate, and some people do find themselves in that situation, given the context of what they've been born into, know that you're already validated, and you don't need anyone to tell you that, okay? You have to believe this for yourself. And even though you may not have had that background, or you may not have had that support or that structure to validate you, you have to believe in yourself as you grow up and as you come into adulthood. You have to believe that for yourself, that you are validated and that you are recognized, and that you don't have or you don't need anybody to confirm that for you. You have to believe that for yourself. And some people do deal with these things, okay? So waiting on recognition and acknowledgement. I'm moving into my next point. Waiting on recognition and acknowledgement. Should you wait on someone to recognize you? Should you wait on someone to acknowledge you, even in the workplace? Do you need these persons to acknowledge you? Do you need them to acknowledge that you're a good worker? Do you need to be promoted for people to recognize that you're doing the job? In any context we find ourselves in our lives, we find that people are looking for recognition and they're looking to be acknowledged. And sometimes that kills morale. And I'll use the workplace for an example. If you're doing the work, you're working hard, you're on the job, you're coming to work on time, you're leaving when you're supposed to leave, you're doing what you're supposed to do, and you're not acknowledged, what does that do to somebody? That kills their morale, because here it is, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not being recognized. And so even outside of the job, you have people in relationships, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing what they're supposed to do in the relationship, but they're not being acknowledged. That kills morale. So why you shouldn't wait for recognition? Because sometimes people are not going to recognize you, and that recognition may never come. You don't need to be validated, and you don't need to be acknowledged. You can be successful without all of those things. And I know that in certain contexts, it does feel good to be recognized, and it does feel good to be acknowledged. But in some cases, if that doesn't come, then what are you to do? So you cannot wait on recognition or wait on someone to come forward and say, hey, I see what you're doing a great job. Because if you're waiting for that pat on the back, that may never come, okay? So what happens? I'm going back to the comments. So what happens? What happens when you're not recognized? I'm going to move away from the comments. But what happens? What happens when you're not recognized, or what happens when you're not acknowledged? Let me just jump to the comments before I go into this next point. So to my next point, what happens when you're not recognized? When you think about it, when you think about the fact that you're doing all of these things, you're doing a good job, you're trying to be good in your relationships, you're trying to be good in even within the family context, and you're not recognized for what you're doing, what happens? And I'm sure we know of people who are constantly seeking recognition. They're constantly seeking to be validated. And in some contexts, is not a good look. It kind of, it gives desperate and sad, especially within the work context. And it really makes a person look insecure. See, a person who's secure with themselves never seeks recognition or validation. They know that they are good enough, and just being themselves, recognition and acknowledgement will automatically come. And I'm talking within the work context. But I'm not talking about arrogance, okay? Arrogance is something completely different. I'm talking about confidence and self-assuredness. These are two different concepts. See, when we look at nature, let's look at nature, for example. When we look at nature, the lion is quiet, kind of unassuming in nature. When they show up, there's no big announcement. But the other animals already know what's up. Okay, they're already on notice. I need to be on my P's and Q's because when this lion is about to attack, I need to be able to get out of here on time. Now, I like to use the hyena because I love nature. So I love to use the hyena as a counter to the lion. So the hyena is very loud. If you're a nature person and you watch these animals, the hyena is a loud animal. They travel in packs. They laugh. Their laugh is really annoying. Okay, they love to draw attention to themselves, and they're loud for no reason, absolutely no reason at all. They're looking for the respect that they will never get. And nobody in the animal kingdom really bats an eye to them when they're alone. That's why they travel in packs. It's only when they travel in packs that the fear comes. Because now you have a pack of hyenas. They rarely travel alone. You have a pack of hyenas, okay? And that is when they're recognized as a threat. But the lion is a king and queen all to themselves. They don't even need to travel in groups. They hunt by themselves. They get their kill all by themselves, just for being themselves. Okay, so we can let that sink in. All right. So this is a short session today. I'm not spending too much time on this today because we're actually on break. I'm actually on break with the platform, but I've arrived at my fast talk segment, and I take 60 seconds to answer each question. These are short and brief, and it's not much elaboration as I would have elaborated with the other questions. So the first question is, how do you recognize and validate yourself? By not seeking the approval of others and knowing that you're already good enough. You don't need anybody to validate you. Know that what you're doing and just being here in this present space and time is good enough. You don't need their support. You don't need their validation. Just keep doing what you do. Question 2. What do you do when people refuse to recognize you? And you are those persons. They flat out refuse. They absolutely refuse to recognize you. Remind yourself that you're already validated just by virtue of being present and being here now and in this space. You're already validated. You do not need their validation or their recognition, okay? How do you respond to people who refuse to recognize you? Give them no response. They don't deserve any response from you. Just carry on business as usual. Keep doing you. Keep doing what you've always been doing. What advice would you give to someone struggling with the lack of recognition? You struggle with not being recognized, people refusing to recognize you. They refuse to validate you. They refuse to acknowledge you. First, I would tell them, stop seeking outside validation. Stop seeking outside recognition or acknowledgement, because that may never come. Make an effort to build yourself both spiritually and emotionally. You have to build yourself. You cannot wait for someone else to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. You have to do your own work, okay? Make an effort to build yourself. Invest in yourself. If you're someone, you go around investing in other people, you build up other people, you spend time, you spend money on other people, you buy other people products, you buy other people's stuff. When are you going to invest in you? When are you going to invest in doing a course or doing something that's going to improve your life? You spend time building up so many other persons, but when are you going to build yourself up? Okay, invest in yourself. Because if you don't invest in yourself, if you don't believe in spending money on yourself, if you don't believe in putting effort into yourself, who's going to put effort into you? Start to create the best version of yourself. Whatever that vision is, whatever you see as being the best version of yourself, start to create that. Give yourself time, the time and the love that you want someone else to give to you. You don't have to wait for someone to come and do it for you. Do it for yourself. And when people see that you love and care about yourself, they're gonna know how to approach you, because they know they can't approach you however they feel like, because they already know you're a person who love and care for yourself. Create your own self, your own safe space. Do not undermine yourself and build yourself to a point where people can't avoid you. You're so good at what you do, they can't avoid you, okay? Because as much as they don't want to, at some point, they're gonna have to recognize you, because you become so good at what you do, it would make them really look silly if they don't acknowledge you, all right? So we come to the end of our Fast Talk segment. And I just want to say that I watched this gentleman today who talked about, in a sense, kind of validation. And I watched him and he said, just because someone stopped loving me, it doesn't mean that I'm going to stop loving myself, which is true. We know that feelings come and feelings go. People can love you today, and guess what? They can hate you today. So their feeling towards you does not make you invalid. If they stop loving or if they stop caring for you, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't love and care for yourself. Okay? You have to remain consistent with how you approach yourself, how you deal with yourself, and understanding that you don't need recognition, acknowledgement, or validation from any other source. Okay, so this brings us to the end of our session. Thank you for tuning in and joining us with our talk today. And I would like to thank our guests. I come to a point where I thank our guests, and I'm going to thank myself. Yes, I want to thank myself. I was my own guest today. And we want to remind you that if you want to advertise with us, let us know. You can reach out to us on our page. Our number is there. Our email is there. Our contacts are there and available. And we want to grow, so grow with us. We want you to grow with us. To those watching via social media, thank you for listening in. Like our page for future notifications of upcoming talks. We're on various social platforms. We're on YouTube, we're on TikTok, we're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're all over the place. We're on Instagram. Comment under our videos, let us know your thoughts, and let us know what you want us to talk about. Thank you for tuning in with me today. And remember, let's think, talk, do. Thank you.